I can't catch a break with you guys. When I reviewed the Spyderco Sage 5, I was met with a big question, or rather a big question mark. Why? Why did Spyderco feel it was necessary to release a knife so close to the Para 3 that it could easily be seen as a competitor? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense for a company like Spyderco to create competition for itself. It wasn't until I started deep diving on Spyderco's website that I found the answer pretty quickly. It turns out that the Spyderco Sage series was created to showcase the different amazing knife lock mechanisms that have become popularized throughout the knife industry. For example, the Sage 1 featured a Michael Walker liner lock. The Sage 2 featured the Chris Reeve integral lock that we now know as the frame lock. The Sage 3 showed off Blackie Collins bolt lock. The Sage 4 utilized Almar's back lock. The Sage 5 finally gave credit to Sal Glesser for his compression lock, and now the Sage 6 has been released with a button compression lock. The main difference here is that the Sage 6 uses what's called the smock lock or the smock button compression lock. Back in 2019, Kevin Smock and Spyderco released the Spyderco Smock, a knife that was extremely well received by the community because it improved on the current compression lock that we already knew and loved. And they sold out, and they stayed sold out, and it became a highly sought after model. And people thought surely it's only a matter of time before Spyderco realizes how many people actually want a button operated compression lock. And then the years went by. There was no new models featuring Kevin Smock's button compression lock, despite the amount of begging being done by the community. Now, while I'm incapable of making sense of Spyderco's business decisions in this matter, it does make me wonder, why would you pass up such a prime opportunity to put a well-loved knife lock mechanism that people want in your knives? The answer to that question came this year in 2025 as they released the Spyderco Sage 6, only their second knife to feature the Kevin Smock button compression lock. So now I have a different question to answer, which is the Sage 6 even necessary? Or should they have used this iteration to show off somebody else's knife lock? To find the answer, we're going to go top down and dig into the Spyderco Sage 6. Now, it should go without saying that I am super excited to have the Spyderco Sage 6 on the table. I was ecstatic when I saw that Spyderco had included another button-operated compression lock in this year's lineup in 2025. Now, in case you've been living under a rock, or in case you've never handled a Spyderco Sage knife, this one's going to be very similar to a Spyderco Para 3, and it's also going to be very different at the same time. The Spyderco Sage 6 is about 7.1 inches overall with a 3¼ inch blade. It features a wire clip, and depending upon which version you get, it will come in either peel ply carbon fiber G10 handles, or in this case, this one is actually full carbon fiber. This one is a sprint run in S90V, and yes, I do mean it when I say that this is in fact full carbon fiber, coming in at $300. And while many people jumped on that, a lot of other people just said, oh, that's way too much money. And I think that that's primarily because a lot of retailers still have the S90V version listed as peel ply. But when this came in, I looked at these handle scales and I saw the different layers of carbon fiber, and then I looked it up on Spyderco's website, and sure enough, it is in fact full carbon fiber handle scales. If you go with the S30V and G10 peel ply carbon fiber model, that one's going to be a lot less expensive, coming in just over the $200 mark. And then, of course, here is the Kevin Smock button compression lock. This one is made in Taiwan, and Taiwan is known for the best quality fit and finish Spydercos that have been released so far. The Taiwan factory is also responsible for producing the vast majority of Spyderco collaborations whenever they work with a notable knife designer or maker. So it really shouldn't be a surprise that the Spyderco Sage, which is a series that's dedicated towards showcasing the different knife locks of famous knife makers, would actually end up being made in Taiwan. First thing that I noticed when I got this in the mail was that the action was incredibly smooth. A lot of that has to do with the Sage's bushing pivot system. You see, the pivot is not just a singular barrel like it is on the Spyderco Paramilitary 2 and the Para 3. No, it actually has a additional ring that wraps around the pivot barrel, and even though this is running on phosphor bronze washers, it creates an extremely smooth action and also improves its drop shut nature. This is something that is easily showcased on the Spyderco Sage 5. As you can see here, it is completely drop shut, and that action retains all of the smoothness that you get when you have phosphor bronze washers. The Sage 6 has the same detent system that the Spyderco Smock had, which some might say is appropriate because it's the same lock as the Spyderco Smock. But what happened is that the Taiwan factory has installed a second ceramic detent ball in the liner of the knife. And what that means is that when you go to shut it, unlike with a regular button lock knife, you can't just press the button and expect it to fall short. No, it actually arrests the momentum of the knife. So if you want to shut it, you actually have to give it a little bit of wrist action, which some people really like and some people really don't. Now, Kevin Smock has been asked about the secondary detent in the Spyderco Smock, and what he has stated publicly is that that was not a part of the original design that he submitted to Spyderco when they did the Spyderco Smock back in 2019. In fact, it kind of sounds like Spyderco US didn't even know this was happening, and so the Taiwanese factory took it upon themselves to add that second detent. And that might make you ask the question of, well, why? The reason behind it comes with what is classified as a gravity knife. If you didn't know, gravity knives are highly illegal in many different areas, especially overseas, and still in some places here in the US. And while the general populace might see a gravity knife as an out the front knife where you pull a handle or release a button and the knife slides out the front, that is actually not the legal definition. I think it's a little ironic because a lot of regular button lock knives, a lot of regular plunge lock knives are technically gravity knives because you press a button and the knife swings free and will also swing open. So that second detent ball is 100% meant to arrest the momentum once the button is depressed. So let's make one thing clear right now. The second detent does not improve anything. It does not make the knife more smooth. It does not make the knife any better. It is simply there to make sure that this knife cannot be classified as a gravity knife in any jurisdiction. Now, there is a simple fix for this. You can actually take the knife apart and you can go ahead and remove that second detent, and it should make it more drop shut. And in theory, it should make it more like the Sage 5 that doesn't have a secondary detent, so that when you release the lock, the knife closes on its own. Ordinarily, I would have gone ahead and taken that out, but I wanted to show you guys firsthand what that second detent means. It means that you can, of course, press the button and nothing will happen. Gravity will not open or shut this blade whatsoever. You do, in fact, need some momentum, and it's not something that I'm a particularly big fan of. So I'm going to snap my fingers and I'm going to show you what it's like once that second detent is removed. The first thing I noticed when I took the Sage 6 apart was that this shares a lot of similarities with the internals of the Spyderco Smock. The Spyderco Smock has a secondary detent, but it also has a secondary stop pin. I'm not entirely sure what the purpose of that secondary stop pin is. It doesn't affect the lockup as far as I can tell. It's just a secondary lock pin, but it does in fact exist on the Spyderco Smock, and in turn it also exists on the Spyderco Sage 6. But the question that you might be asking yourself at this point in time is, does removing the secondary detent actually make a quality of life difference? And the answer is yeah, it absolutely does. Listen, one of the things that I love about the Sage 5 is the smoothness of operation. You see, something that the Sage 6 does not, in fact, take in common with the Smock is that the Smock actually uses bearings, whereas the Sage does not. And here on the Sage 6, it also does not. It utilizes the bushing pivot, which I've already mentioned that I love because it utilizes phosphor bronze washers, which allows you to have a better overall lockup, but it also allows you to have a certain level of smoothness that you'll never get from a bearing knife. It's one of those things where you kind of wonder, what were they thinking when they said, you know what, we're going to do a Sage 6 and we're going to borrow some stuff from the Smock, not just the button actuated compression lock, but also the secondary stop pin. And you know what? I got to say that once you take that second detent out, and that is something that I'm going to recommend to absolutely everybody, you start noticing all of the things that you love about the compression lock, and that is that it's finger safe. It's easy to actuate. Yes, even on the non-button operated compression lock, it's super easy to actuate. The question is it worth it? Or should Spyderco have chose a different lock? Well, honestly, I'm just going to say this. It's about time. It's about time that we got a button-operated compression lock that's not the Spyderco smock, because I like having variety, and I think it's something that they should switch to far more frequently. And on that note, I'm going to bring up a secondary piece that I think they should also do, which is switch to not just phosphor bronze washers, but also this bushing pivot, where the pivot is encapsulated by another barrel and the pivot moves around that extra barrel. It makes the action so good, so smooth, so tight, so performance oriented. I would absolutely love to see Spyderco take that into account. Now, that isn't to say that I love absolutely everything about this knife. One of the things that I do not love about the Spyderco Sage 6 is the fact that they have carried on with the wire clip. Dear Lord, I dislike wire clips. They look cheap. They feel cheap. Do they function well? Yes, they are very function forward as far as how it works. It's not going to tear up your pockets. It's not going to tear up your jean fabric. It's going to go in and out of the pocket easily. And for the most part, it doesn't get in the way of ergos. But when you're spending $300 in this case on a knife, the last thing you want to see is something that is reminiscent of a 2-cent paper clip that you can find on your desk. It just feels lazy that we have a wire clip here. And listen, I stood by this thought when I had the Sage 5. And look, the good news is that there are options out there to replace it. This is my titanium 3D milled titanium pocket clip from Rip's Garage Tech, and Rip's Garage Tech makes, in my opinion, the best wire clip replacement. Lynch Northwest also makes one if you prefer a stamped titanium clip, but honestly, in my opinion, there's really only one option to replace that wire clip, and it's going to be Rip's Garage Tech for me. On this knife, it absolutely killed me when I got so many people saying, oh, $300, $300. Listen, this is S90V. This is Spyderco's S90V. This specific sprint run comes with actual carbon fiber, and I'm not talking about peel ply. No, this is actual full carbon fiber scales. The nice thing about this specific one, not speaking about the S30V and peel ply carbon fiber variant, which is kind of their base model, is that you get full quality here. Carbon fiber is an amazing material. I wasn't a huge fan of the Smock's peel ply carbon fiber, and I replaced it quite quickly on my Spyderco Smocks, both Spyderco Smocks, in fact. But this one being full carbon fiber, I don't necessarily feel the need to replace the handle scales. And that's going to be a first for me. Normally when I get a Spyderco, the first thought in my head is, who can I use to replace the scales? Because I'm not the biggest fan of G10 on a premium knife, and I love the options of availability out there. However, we don't really have any modification options for the Spyderco Sage 6 at the point in recording this video. At this point in time, I do not have any modification options, and I knew that would be the case. And because I like to modify these Spydercos very quickly after I get them in, it's something that I did take into consideration. Also, the S90V blade steel is not something that you see terribly frequently from Spyderco, and they do a good job on their heat treats in general, so I trust them. I trust them a lot, but I am 100% going to be replacing this clip with a Rip's Garage Tech 3D milled titanium wire clip replacement. There's one thing that I want to note, and that is that you cannot, in fact, take your Sage 5 Rex 121 blade and directly swap it over. And the reason behind this is that on a button-operated compression lock, the liner, which contains the button, is on the opposite side, which means that the milling that allows for the lock bar to engage is actually switched. So you cannot, in fact, take a Rex 121 from the Sage 5 and put it on the Sage 6. Given that Spyderco released this year, the Sage 6 is 100% in the competition for knife of the year. And I wish I could say that about American made knives in general, but in this case, this Spyderco is made in Taiwan, and I'm not mad about that at all. I think that The Taiwanese factory does an insanely good job, especially on their satin grind finishes. They do a fantastic job when it comes to their heat treats and their regular fit and finish. What different knife locks would you like to see on future Spyderco Sage models, since this is the model that they're using to showcase those really cool knife locks? Or is this just going to be one big massive pass for you? Do you hate the Sage 6? Let me know in the comments section down below, guys. And if you want to watch more awesome knife and EDC content, feel free to click on one of the videos that pops up next.